Alright, so doing a second video today with my girlfriend. It's a beautiful day here, and we thought we'd go for a walk. Thank you for encouraging me to do so, because without her, I wouldn't have made either of these videos, because they're just not what I think to do with my time typically. Um, but I think they're good, and it's good to put myself out there more and let people see me and who I am. Um, so the topic, despite how beautiful it is today, the topic I wanted to talk about more was the idea of evil, and not in a religious sense, not necessarily in a moral sense, though yes, in a moral sense. I'm not sure the best way to articulate it, but the point being that it's not like a rigid standard. It's more meant to describe evil as it functions so that we can recognize it and know what we're dealing with, because I see it permeating our culture everywhere. And most of the problems I post about come back to this behavior or this pattern of behavior. I just don't usually mention the specific word because it's so charged. Um, so that we don't misunderstand, the way I interpret evil is through actually Scott Peck, the book The People of the Lie. This is a book where he proposed a psychology of evil, an actual diagnosis um, for evil, that he proposed that it was a form of mental illness, which I believe is true, because ultimately evil destroys itself. It just is destructive. And not in a positive way. Like, there are some types of destruction that are creative. So, anyways, there's some types of destruction that actually lead to creativity, or creation. It's part of the process of life. And that's what I was realizing the other day when I wrote a poem about violence, which I ultimately turned into a poem about transformation, and the way that most things, like, they have to be broken down and then assimilated, and the way that, like, everything grows from something else. Even the cells in our bodies have been recycled who knows how many times, from planets, stars, galaxies, who knows. But the point is that everything goes through transformation, and there is destruction that leads to creation, and then there's destruction that leads to nothing. It literally seems to just erase whatever is there. And this is where evil comes in, because I find it to be what I call like a consuming force, because it's not even just purely destructive, it just erases things. Um, an example of this, the closest in nature, but it's still not accurate, would be a black hole, how it eats everything. But that still shoots out energy in different forms, which in theory then can be used for other things. But the consuming force, it doesn't give anything back. It just takes. And we see this, the point being, getting back to the original point around violence and transformation, what I came to realize is what may actually be most against nature or violent is hoarding, is stopping transformation, is stopping change, because it goes against life itself, because everything is in constant flux that is alive. And so the more that we stall life, stall energy from moving, stall transformation, we're literally stopping life from doing what it wants to do most, which is to become something, to evolve, to grow further. And that's why I see so much evil in the hoarding of wealth and the hoarding of resources, because there's all this power and potential that's doing nothing. It's just there. And it doesn't give to life. It doesn't further life. In fact, if you look at the disparity created by the wealth that people are hoarding. So many people are suffering. Our culture, our people are declining. Like, everything is declining because of this. And that's where I find that's how evil functions at a large scale. Ultimately, it leads to decay, death, and no growth, just destruction. So anyways, back to the original topic, evil. So evil, as defined in this book, simply put, is basically scapegoating. Evil is considered something that moves against life. It's considered avoidance of spiritual growth. It's considered deception, self-deception, deception of others. But basically, it comes from people who are evil are unable to tolerate their own wrongness. So why do I bring it up? How does this apply? I think most of the issues we see in our world today, most people are pointing fingers at each other. We see it all the time. It's their fault. It's the left's fault. It's the right's fault. It's this group of people's fault. We're constantly looking for someone to blame. And sometimes people are legitimately at fault. And sometimes people aren't. And sometimes people are just looking to avoid blame and looking to scapegoat, like we said here. And that's the thing. That's something to realize about what distinguishes evil between someone who may not actually be intending to cause harm or may not understand the impact they're having. With evil, it begins with self-deception. It begins with a fundamental core belief, whether consciously aware or not, that they are beyond reproach, that they are in some way different than other people, right? So it can look like entitlement. It can look like grandiosity. It looks a lot like narcissism. In fact, he specifically says, so far as evil relates to personality disorders, that he believes evil to be a subtype of narcissism, more commonly known as malignant narcissism. Okay, so let me simplify. Let me get to the point. The point is that people who are evil generally don't consider themselves to be. And if they were to honestly evaluate their own thoughts, not just what they think they do or feel or are, but like truly dug into their beliefs, they would find at the core of themselves an unwillingness to tolerate the same set of rules, standards, judgments as they impose on the world or on others. They would believe themselves above this. They would also find immense difficulty in sitting with any errors they've committed, any acts that hurt others, caused harm. It's the reason why they become evil, is they essentially make the choice of comfort and image over spiritual growth and reality. And the more this choice is made, the more likely it is to persist and continue. So it's very important that we make decisions based on our values and with integrity, because my experience has been, if I lie once, I'm more likely to continue lying. The same thing. If I get away with a behavior one time, I'm more likely to do it again. And the more I do it, and especially if I get away with it, the easier it is to slide into that behavior. And that's just how it happens. Because people don't go down this path because it's not working, right? We have to remember that people do what works for them, even if they're not fully sure what the benefit is of their behavior. They are going to do whatever their fundamental belief is will benefit them the most. It's just how we're wired. So they generally start from a place of distress and pain. We're presented with an option where we can accept reality as is, we can accept our shortcomings, we can accept our challenges, we can accept what's happened to us, and we can work with that. Or we can choose to deny all of it, place blame elsewhere, and present ourselves as perfect, not at fault, whatever. And what happens with that is when we do that, we avoid growth. We avoid becoming who we wish ourselves to be. We avoid being what we say we are. And not only that, but then we project these parts of ourselves onto others and typically then judge them and attack them. You'll notice when projection's actually happening with other people, they are convinced that the person projecting, they are convinced the other person is doing exactly what they're doing in that moment. And you'll notice they get enraged because they've displaced this part of themselves that they hate, that they don't want to look at, that is too painful, and they put it out there to try and manage it. So not only do they get the benefit of not having to deal with their own discomfort, their own shortcomings, then they get the benefit of feeling self-righteous and good and like they're actually on the side of good. And this is how wars happen. This is how all atrocities happen, is basically people project onto another group of people, and then they feel not only entitled to do whatever they need to do, but as if they're doing God's work, righteous, right? It's really twisted. And obviously those are some of the grandest scales where this can happen and most obvious examples, but it happens every day. It can happen from when I'm watching like my son and he's doing something and I'm angry or distressed and he says something that sets me off, and I can be like, why are you being mad at me? Why are you being angry at me? Like I'm projecting my anger onto him when he may have just said something. But in the moment, sometimes when we're triggered, that can happen. So anyways, I can already hear it now because I did not write any of this down. I am just going off of what comes to mind. I'm just talking in the moment. So no, like I don't have this perfectly laid out, perfectly explained, perfectly supported. But I hope you're able to hear the main message and the things I'm saying and to not extrapolate too much from it, because I can easily hear people taking some of the things I've said in isolation, not watching the whole video, and using them and misusing them, because once again, that's a characteristic of the evil. So whenever you point out evil in someone who is an evil person, they will have to attack. They will have to discredit you. They will have to do something to try to make it go away, because they cannot stand to look at themselves, to see their own shortcomings, their own failures. So what do? If you have to maintain a perfect image, if you can never be wrong, if you can never fall short, if you can never be blamed, your only option is to eliminate anything that points to you being wrong, to maintain that illusion and that delusion in your own mind. Sometimes denial is enough for people. They can just deny it and miss reality completely and operate as if it weren't true. But sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes the evidence is so obvious, and you will notice. Now, this isn't just evil people. This happens with any type of projection. But you will notice the more clear the evidence is that you present someone of something they do not want to accept about themselves or are unable to process for whatever reason, the more vehemently they will deny it, the more they will become aggressive, the more they will do things to push you away, even to hurt you, to make it go away. And so it is with the evil. So whenever you confront evil, there are two main feelings that help you identify it. One is typically you will have a feeling of revulsion. And revulsion is a feeling to move away from, to get away from. And it's meant to protect us. It's a good thing that we have that feeling, because evil is extremely dangerous. It causes all types of harm and destruction. Arguably, everything that you see wrong with the world was caused by this. So it makes sense that we would feel revulsion in its presence. The other thing that we would feel is confusion, because evil always operates by deception, whether that be self-deception or outright lying to others, hence people of the lie. The evil are people of the lie. They will lie at all costs to protect their self-image, their comfort, their perfection. They will sacrifice their children emotionally, obviously, sometimes physically, I'm sure, but emotionally, mentally, they will sacrifice those they supposedly care about. They will sacrifice anything they need to maintain that image because they will absolutely not bear being wrong or being imperfect in any way. And you can see how this creates all types of problems, especially when we have adults, many adults operating in this behavior. So you can see how vulnerable children are to this dynamic. We can see that this is true even in romantic relationships, which a lot of people believe kind of recreate that primary caregiver relationship just as adults, which is why most people attract partners that are very similar to their caregivers in terms of traits and things like that, because it's what we were modeled, it's what we know, and it does reopen and allow the opportunity to heal some of those wounds from childhood. But as long as we're still caught up in this cycle and don't realize what's happening, what the evil people, how it works and how they project onto us and how we internalize that, we can go from being raised by a parent that's arguably evil to a partner that's arguably evil to businesses with corporations that are evil, and just that's the way it is. And we just believe everything is wrong with us. And that's what I see in this society. I see that the system is absolutely ruthless. It is designed to extract maximum value. So the system designed to extract maximum value, it is not designed to nurture human beings. It is not designed for the well-being of human individuals. I think it would be very hard to argue against that. And I'm sure some will try to, but there's ample evidence. There's so much that goes against what we know and have research on, supports human well-being, human development, human health, that many of our companies, our policies, our government, etc., actively opposes and prevents. They want to extract from us. But the catch is they also want to blame us and make us think that it's our fault, that we're failing, right? See how the whole system itself I would qualify as evil, because it's never about, well, we don't really support primary caregivers. We don't even have paid parental leave like most developed nations. So maybe parental burnout or failure to attach properly is more of a systemic issue than a personal issue. No, we say the parents aren't doing it right. They're not good enough. There's something wrong with them. And we internalize that. So you see how they benefit because they don't have to provide that service. They don't have to lose money or pay out money. They are trying to extract maximum value and then blame us for the fallout, the predictable fallout of that. And you can take this and apply this to almost any area in our economy, because if you look at it, it is rigged. The game is rigged. We can just look at where the wealth has moved even over the last 30 years. It continues to grow dramatically upward to a small portion of people while everyone else grows poorer. And then they'll look and blame people for their spending, for not working, for things like that. Never mind the fact that they won't even pay you a livable wage at most jobs. Couldn't be that, huh? No, it's their fault, right? Because our system is evil. And I personally believe it rewards the evil. It rewards evil people that are sick and twisted and unwell. So it's literally eliminating some of the most valuable, worthwhile things in life. Caregiving, People, how many people now do you hear say, I don't want to be a parent. I'm not going to bring a kid into this world. How did we create a world where continuing life, having a family, building something worthwhile like relationship, the actual continuation of our civilization has become something that people don't want to do because of how shitty it is? That's pretty crazy. Think about that. People are more interested in getting jobs and making money than they are in actually having a world with humans in it. That doesn't make any sense to me. And it shouldn't make much sense to you. But I understand it because there are so many people that are just caught up in the system and become complicit in the evil and just watch it happen. And there's many who benefit from it. There's many who extract, and there's many invested in maintaining it as is. But that's where I think we need an intervention. I think this is a legitimate mental illness, and these people cannot stop themselves. They are addicted to control. They are addicted to power to the point that they are literally putting our planet on the brink of extinction. That we have been poised for any minute. I don't think any of us would be surprised if we destroyed the planet with a nuclear war. That's insane. That's the type of people we have in power in our planet. That's not normal. That should not be normal. And I see it everywhere, just dehumanization, just destroying our planet, destroying each other, destroying our natural resources. For what? What are they even gaining? Nice yachts? Trips to space? That's fucking stupid. That's the dumbest shit. Like, while they're squashing the potential capacity for billions of people, billions of people, the future of humanity, they're depriving, they build technologies to addict our children, to keep them hooked on their products, to spend more money. What a worthless investment. Do you know how much more valuable a human being that's raised well is? Do you know how much more creative, productive, able to generate new ideas and solutions that benefit everyone? Significantly more than an addicted human that never developed a self. These people are monsters and short-sighted. They're sick and unwell. And it really angers me because it's so obvious. Look everywhere, anywhere you look, you can see it in any dynamic. And the worst part is, they're not even fucking happy. Most of them are not even happy. So everyone's chasing this dream that's bullshit. And even when they hit it or get it or do everything right, they're like, this is it? Why? Because humans were not created. Nature does not exist so we can make money. Like, that's just not what it is. It's always existed as a relationship. Relationship with nature, relationship with planet, relationship with cosmos, relationship with each other. That has always been the most valuable thing, not only socially, but evolutionarily. It's how we've survived. It's how we've made it this far. So, but what we see is evil at work. There is so many layers of deception that it's so difficult to untangle. And they are willing to act so ruthless that it's difficult for someone who is not evil to even think of keeping up with them. I can't imagine the type of things I'd have to do to take down someone who is evil because they don't have morality. They don't have limits. They just project it and take it outward. I actually have empathy. I actually care about people. I care how they feel. I care how I affect them. I care about the well-being of others. And as long as we keep rewarding ruthlessness, callousness, extraction, and exploitation, we're signing our own death warrant. What do you expect from these parasites? Okay, enough of my rant. The point is, we can do so much better. And I'm also reminding you that there are things far more valuable than possessions and accumulation and stock options and whatever the fuck else they do. That's like just imaginary stuff, basically, because it really doesn't mean anything. It's not like, I mean, money doesn't even represent value anymore. So, yes, they have these billions from what? Like extracting it, taking other people's time and energy, basically underpaying others, figuring out ways to screw them over, or accumulating interest from providing what value exactly? It's unclear to me, because even the things they try to say that are valuable that they provided, I'd argue, aren't. I would absolutely not, I would be fine without Amazon, because Amazon has destroyed so many businesses. It's destroyed communities. It's destroyed local businesses, which has also broken down communities. Like the convenience of getting something shipped to my door, I would gladly trade for how things used to be before it, because I don't think that service is very valuable. I think it just makes money for them. That's it. And ultimately leads to less connection, less meaning, less relationship, which is the stuff that's actually valuable to humans. And that's why most people feel so empty and lost and angry and confused, because we live in a world that no longer cares about what most people would consider is the whole purpose for living, is the whole thing that makes us human. That being connection, relationship, the pursuit of meaning. It's really sad. There's so much more out there. So much more out there. And we can't take this down just one person. Like, it has to be all of us. And it has to be all of us working together. Because here's the thing, unless you're among that, like, very high elite class, you're getting screwed in some way. Even if you're still screwing over the guy who's, a grade down from you, like, you're still getting screwed. You're still not happy, probably. You're still not getting what you want. And I think it absolutely does not have to be this way. I really don't think it has to be this way. It's like watching them drain the ocean if we were all fish, and they're hoarding most of the ocean and like a private pool for like 3 people, while all of us are flopping around in the mud puddles that remain. How does that make sense? How does that work? And don't they understand that all the things that they want require people to make? Oh, right. They're trying to replace them with robots. But you can't replace humanity with a robot. You can't. As good as AI gets, it still is not human. And I think it can mimic some aspects of humanity and empathy very well. But it still is missing some fundamental human things. And I don't think it could ever replace that. All right. I think that's enough out of me. Definitely ranted enough, went on enough. Hopefully some of this resonated with you. Hopefully it's not too depressing, and hopefully there's still some hope that I left out there, because guess what? Despite all this going on, you can still choose at any time to reclaim your humanity, your right to create, your right to define what things mean. Viktor Frankl, he wrote Man's Search for Meaning, and he was a survivor in the Holocaust, and he was in horrendous conditions, like unbearable. We couldn't even imagine them today. And the way he survived is he made things meaningful. He found meaning anywhere he could. He found meaning in suffering. And I think we can do that.